it's Dara. So welcome back to part 2 of my first video, which was how to be an effective teacher. And now this video is going to be about how to be an effective ESL student. And I put out as a disclaimer that the views and opinions are my own. This is strictly going based on my own personal experience, even as a former student, not ESL, but a student in general. So again, your experiences as a student will in fact be different, but this is just my personal take and my personal experiences that I want to share with you. As an ESL student, although these tips will be focusing more on you, but this also can be applied to students of any subject matter. So, my ESL students, welcome to Dara's ESL class. I'm happy to have you here today. One of the things that I want to share with you, and I'm saying this as a teacher, but also as a former student myself, I understand that for a lot of you, going into a new class or learning a new language is very, very intimidating. In fact, it's quite scary. The other scary part is that you're looking around in the classroom and everyone looks different from you, especially if you're from a different country. Your teacher looks different from you. She's speaking a language you do not understand. Okay? You start to question whether or not you should be here. Well, the good news is, yes, you should. So how can you be an effective ESL student if you're having all these different emotions? You want to be open to the process. Now what I mean by this is you don't want to go in with too many high expectations. You want to go in with an open mind, meaning that when you come into the class, just go with the flow. Don't worry about whether or not you can communicate with your teacher or your students right away. Don't worry about how different everyone is or how everybody looks different from you. Don't worry about those things. Try your best to just throw them out the window, so to speak, because you are there to not only learn a new language, but to also become acquainted, with this whole ESL classroom experience. Okay? So you want to give yourself a chance to just breathe and to relax. The other way to be an effective student is preparation. Now, as you are taking classes, your teacher will give you assignments. Teachers will give you homework assignments or certain tasks they want you to do at home. You want to be prepared. So one way to be prepared is to have a notebook. Now, having a notebook is very, very important. You want to have a notebook. Okay, this is just an example of a notebook. And you want to make sure that inside your notebook, you take notes. And what I mean by taking notes is, make sure you have a pen or pencil and you want to write down what the teacher is saying. And even if you write it in your own language, that's perfectly fine. But you want to make sure that you take notes, because taking notes is very effective to learning. Now, of course, I would encourage you to take notes in English. It depends on your class. Some teachers will actually have students buy a notebook specifically for class. And what I mean by this is sometimes in my classes, I would ask students to bring in a notebook and they would do something called journal writing, where they would write down maybe how they feel, or maybe if we're talking about a specific topic, I would ask them about it and they would write it in their journal in English. And then by the end of the week, I would collect those journals, I would read them, and then make corrections. In some ESL classes, teachers will not ask you to do this, but I would encourage you to do it anyway, because the more you practice writing in English, the more you practice taking notes, the more comfortable it becomes as you are learning this language. Another thing you may want to do, but again, be careful, is to use a recording device. Now, a recording device or a recorder, most times we do have it on our cell phones, but you can buy them separately. Is some students will bring that in and record the teacher talking, so that way when they go home, they can listen to what the teacher is saying. Be careful with this, because a lot of teachers would discourage students from doing that. And you might be wondering why. Because a lot of times when students do that, they're really not paying attention to the teacher at the moment. They're just recording her voice or his voice. And so they could be thinking about other things while they're recording what the teacher is saying, and then they go home and do the work. That's not very effective because when you go home, everybody has different households. Maybe you have family, maybe you have children. You may not have time to focus on every single thing the teacher said in your class. So I would discourage you from doing that. It's best to listen, take notes, because you're learning in the moment, and it'll help you to remember better that way. As part of preparation, you always want to make sure that you come on time, and if you have any questions, bring those questions to the class. I always tell my students, write down the questions that you have for your teacher. Sometimes the questions will come to you after class, which is okay. Write it down. So when you come to class the next day, you can ask your teacher whatever question you have. Another thing to make you an effective student is by being willing to participate. Now, this is the one thing a lot of students struggle with, because some students are shy, they don't feel comfortable, or they just don't want to participate. They just want to sit there and listen to the teacher. But to really learn the language, you have to speak the language. And this is uncomfortable, yes, but it doesn't have to be. So, what do? If your teacher is giving an assignment and asks you to work with your partner next to you, okay. This is an opportunity for you to work with your classmate on that assignment. In this case, that classmate may be just as shy as you are. So now you both can work together to complete the assignment, and you don't start to feel so bad because you realize, hey, I'm not the only one who feels this way. If you're working with someone that you don't feel comfortable with, this is the opportunity for you to maybe ask your teacher to switch partners, or maybe work with a different group of students. But again, this is rare. This doesn't happen very much, but it definitely does happen sometimes. Another way to be an effective ESL student is by asking questions. Ask questions always. The reason why is because when you ask questions, it helps you to reinforce, to remember, or to review what you are learning. If you don't understand something, ask questions, whether it's to your classmate or to the teacher. Try your best not to feel too uncomfortable by this. I do understand that asking questions for most people, and even in some cultures, that's considered a bad thing. But I will tell you honestly, in the long run, or in the future, you will understand that when you ask questions, it becomes more comfortable, and you don't feel as nervous, and you don't feel as embarrassed. In fact, you'll start to feel more confident, because now you're understanding things that you didn't understand before. So always ask questions. Study. Now, you have to study in order for you to succeed. What I mean by studying is you have to do your own review. The teachers will do reviews in the ESL classroom, but it's your responsibility to review at home or at a library or anywhere that you feel comfortable practicing your English. Now, here's the challenge to this one, okay? Teachers are well aware that sometimes, depending on where you live, you may not be able to practice English with your friends if all your friends do not speak English. So this can be a challenge. When you are studying, one thing you can do is you can go on the internet and listen to English radio, or listen to or watch English videos or movies to kind of help you to practice your listening skills in English. Or you and your classmate can maybe make plans to meet up after class. Another way to be an effective ESL student is to be patient. This is something I tell my students all the time. You will not, and I repeat, you will not learn English in a day. It is not possible. You can study for 24 hours a day and you will not know everything. So you must be patient with yourself first and with the process. Sometimes students feel so discouraged because they take ESL classes maybe for a year or two and they don't feel confident that their English is where it should be. And you know what? That is very, very possible, and that does happen very often. Sometimes it's not because you're doing anything wrong. Sometimes it's just the way it is. Everybody learns at a different pace and a different speed. So you don't want to focus too much on that. You just want to keep practicing. You want to keep at it. You want to keep talking to your classmates. Talk to your teacher. If you want to take on additional ESL classes somewhere else, by all means. but you'd want to be patient with yourself, because if you're not patient with yourself, we have something called burnout, which means you will become so stressed about the process that you will forget. So the basic things that you learned in English, you will forget. So pace yourself, take your time, breathe. Sometimes the best way to learn is just by taking your time. Believe me, I know from experience. As an ESL student, you want to also, I would say, be friendly, you know? Now, when I say by being friendly doesn't mean you have to make friends with everybody, okay? But being friendly means that you want to talk to people, because communication is key to learning a new language. So if you're friends with your classmate because this person sits next to you all the time, that's great. But maybe you should sit in the back one day, or maybe sit on the left side, or sit on the right side. You want to make sure that you get to know, if not all, some of your classmates. Participate in group activity. If your teacher comes to you one-on-one, this is an opportunity to talk to your teacher. And again, all this talking and communicating is really helping you reinforce what you're learning in the classroom. And by being friendly, that takes away all that pressure and all of that stress. You start to smile more. You might even laugh a little bit, but you don't want to be too strict and too hard on yourself. You want to be friendly with this process, you want to be patient, and most of all, you want to try your best. So I hope these tips have helped you as the ESL student. But again, even if you're not learning English, this goes for all students in all subject matter. You always want to try your best, and you want to participate, because when you participate, it really helps you to learn more effectively. And I hope that when you're in your ESL classroom or any classroom, that you take time to get to know your classmates, talk to your teacher, and try to have fun with this process. Try not to feel like you have to know everything in a day, or somehow you're afraid to make a mistake, because you will make a mistake or mistakes, okay? And your teacher too. Smile, be friendly, be patient, and try your best. That's the best way to go. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I'll see you in the next video.